in a way.
Yeah.
Take that
So
simple.
it goes to your point about it. Retirement looks a lot like work. It's different work. So let me ask you this, because as a therapist, and it'd be an interesting question for Dan. I'd love to hear both your takes on this.
Yeah,
If
we'll get to Dan when we get to Dan. How
if
about that?
if somebody came to you and said, well, Dr. Baltimore, I retired and now I feel like I don't matter. I don't have a life. The life I knew is gone. What do I do?
Right.
Where
Right.
would you go as a therapist with that?
Yeah,
Because
that's
this guy's depressed. He's retired and now he's no longer.
that as well. Yeah, so I guess, man, it does get back to your question about, doing some planning and that kind of thing. But really, I think what I would want to say is I think, first of all, the person has already set an assumption in place by saying the very first things that came out. I'm not good. This is not working out.
yeah.
So that's already an outlook there. So I would kind of take them back, and depending on the counseling theory, and I'm going to do some more work on counseling theory. So you guys hang in there for that. I swear I can't stop it. But the idea is, depending on the particular theory, you want to kind of go, wait a minute, let's take inventory and just see what you've accomplished and what you've done. I'm going to put the ledger down here, and let's start seeing, and let's start marking and writing down the kinds of things that this person has assets from, has built in him or her, and in lifetime, and really sort some things out. So you never want to engage in a tug of war with a depressed person. Don't worry, be happy. But you kind of want to set the record straight, and really, if you, from a cognitive therapy standpoint, for example, you really want to do and start a Socratic dialogue. You really want to ask people, yeah, you said that about yourself, but what's the evidence for that? And let's take a look at things
Wow.
and start to break down and things. What you end up doing is find out this person has a lot of assets, and they're probably estimating the difficulty somewhat, and you want to build on those strengths. You don't want to argue and tear down their thought process, because maybe there are some things that have caused this person to get to that place. But yeah, I think from the very start, if you sort of look for where, and this is another theoretical point of view, but you're kind of looking for the underlying feeling that is sort of floating there, and it may be something about self-worth, it may be about a lot of other things, but you kind of want to listen very carefully, and that's the first thing a counselor needs to do. So the answer to your question is listen, and then depending on the theoretical approach and what you feel as a therapist might be the best approach with the person sitting in front of you, and you've done your training and work and experience, and so you can make a judgment about which of those theories and which really the way to talk to this client, if you will, and kind of go from there. But there's two big traps. One is getting in the tug of war where I'm bad, no, you're not bad, and you're kind of pulling the rope, and also giving into beliefs that are somewhat sketchy. Maybe this person holds a belief, and you go, wait, the world of information around us says something different. Now, how do I approach this person to get them to kind of think outside their box, if you will? It's too long of an answer for your question.
No, I really like some of the things you said I haven't really thought about. So the first thing is don't tear down their thought process, how they got to where they are. In other words, say, it's okay, they're there, suck it up.
Right. We've all come through it. Let me tell you about my story. That's the other thing.
That would be my approach totally. It'd be, back when I had that problem, I had that surgery, and here's what I did. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is
and it's not all bad. However, used in that particular situation, I mean, the idea of self-disclosure should be very, very limited and never get to that point, and only tell that story about you when you are absolutely convinced that it's going to make just a little difference or open the door a little bit. Otherwise, stay silent. Keep those stories to yourself. That's what I'd say in training, but there's exceptions to those rules.
See, so when I worked with you, maybe that's what I should have done. That was my next step, to actually go through and take that program and actually become a counselor, not just sort of pretend to be one because I was your associate, because those are skills that absolutely, I wouldn't say I don't have them.
No, you don't.
I think they're in all of us.
Shouldn't say that, because you do, and I've seen it. And that
but you have to practice.
Yeah.
And my practice is to say
that.
My practice is, if I tell one story, I figure 3 or 4 would be better.
I got a better story than that. Let me hear this. If you hear this story, everything's going to be good. No, I understand that, but yeah, and you were making a point. I took you off track just a little bit, but the idea that it is the tendency is to really connect with that person and let them know that you're really trying to feel and be in that moment with them in their journey. I mean, that's as soon as you start talking about yourself, or I may add, for our couples and family therapists out there, if you start talking about people who are not in the room, that may be a signal that you want to kind of look at where you're going with this. So, as a famous, in my world, he's famous. A supervisor who once told me that, in very clear terms, do therapy with the people in the room, and I've learned that lesson. Now I've kept it up a little bit. It seems to help out. But yeah, back to this idea of the person coming in not being ready for that. I think we have to depending on the theoretical approach, might be a reality therapy approach. What's stopping you from getting what you want? I mean, what you want your retirement? So it seems like something's blocking you from moving to the goals that you set. And what is that? And let's define it and just kind of take it apart a little bit.
But what I like is that you put the ball back in the court of the person who's talking to you. So in other words, if you're doing sort of a self-analysis on this whole retirement trip, or any trip really, you ask yourself, okay, yeah, I feel this way, or think I feel this way. So what are the reasons I feel this way?
Right.
Are those real? First, are those real concerns? And second, if they is there anything I can do about them? Those kinds of things.
I think that's sort of the William Glasser reality therapy approach, and I like the term reality in there. I mean, we're always struggling with those kinds of things, but in order to answer those questions about what's stopping you, you really have to go back and look at a history of this person to kind of get them to that point. You don't want to rush real fast in therapy anyway, but you do have to figure out, what's the missing information that this person doesn't have it there, or unwilling to accept information. So you do have to have enough information to convince a skeptic, so to speak, about their personal situation. And you're the stranger. You're the person on the outside kind of helping. So you have to be careful in those ways. But you have to provide enough information or reality to support this person's goal and what's going on, and have them seriously take a self-reflection period of time to say, hey, I don't like this. I don't like where it's going, and what can I do? And then you face some of those facts, nobody wants to hear that therapy is going to be about you doing the work, not the therapist.